As far as last night's game, remember yesterday I said that game was such garbage that even though it's a staple of a Friday program to begin the show by talking about the Thursday night matchup, my thought was that game is going to suck so badly that I might not even do it. Well, I was right. It did. But here we are. Here the bleep we are. And I'm going to start with that game. The best thing that I can say for that game last night, at least we all saw it coming. At least nobody was blindsided by that bleep show. At least nobody tuned into Panthers Bears expecting a kick-ass night or a laser show or even a watchable football game. And it's a good thing because we got just the opposite. Now, I guess technically I did make it to the end of that game. But then again, it is my job to make it to the end of that game. That said, I'm not sure I have it in me to ever sit through anything like that ever again. Now, am I saying that I would retire? Am I saying that I would flat out quit before I subjected myself to something like that ever again? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Hey, when the going gets tough, the tough quit. When life gives you lemons, quit. It's not how many times you get knocked down. It's how many times you quit. I'm not watching that crap again. Yeah, I would quit. Yeah, but Rome, what about paying your rent? What about it? Hey, Rome, what about food? What about it? Hey, Rome, what about putting your second kid through college? What about it? I'm not sitting through that crap again. And, of course, that garbage football game couldn't even give us a winner against the spread. But in a way, that makes total sense as well, right? Because nobody watching that game last night won. We all lost. So, of course, nobody was going to win a bet. Nobody deserved to win a bet. Rough night, yo. Rough night. Rough night for everybody. Well, rough night for everybody except the Bears. The Bears actually, as bad as that game was, the Bears actually had their best night in a very, very long time. Last night was so good for the Bears that they started an undrafted rookie, D2 quarterback, against a Heisman-winning #1 pick overall, and they won that game. And not only did they win that game, not only did they win once, they actually won twice. Thanks to that absolutely brilliant-looking trade that the Panthers made before the draft, Chicago owns Carolina's pick. So Chicago wins the game, and they also help their chances of getting the #1 pick. Really good night for Chicago, even if they didn't look really good doing it. It also means the Panthers are so pathetic. They just let the Bears get over on them in two different ways. And to be totally honest, I'm not really sure how things could be any worse or any more miserable for Carolina than they are right now. I mean, how badly do you think the Panthers wish they had C.J. Stroud? C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, for that matter. Instead, they had that incredibly potent combo of Bryce Young and Frank Reich. And by incredibly potent combo, I obviously mean one of the least dangerous, least threatening, least impressive head coach #1 pick combos ever. Listen, I'm not here to pile on Bryce. The dude is only 9 games into his career. He is leading a dumpster fire. But it's not piling on to say that he needs to do a better job of leading that dumpster fire than he is right now. It's pretty obvious. It's not all his fault, but it's not none of his fault either. And right now, he's not half the player that C.J. Stroud is. He may never be. Again, I understand. He needs more help around him, but he also needs to help himself. He needs to do better himself. They gave up a bleep ton to get him. He was the first pick overall. And they're playing as if they're about to secure that top pick again. Except this time, they don't get to keep it. They don't get it. This is obviously going horribly for Young in Carolina, especially since it's going so incredibly well for Stroud and the Texans and my dude, Nick Caserio. You know, the one dude off the Belichick tree that is killing it. Oh, Speaking of Belichick, holy crap. Have you seen the rack on that dude? Allegedly. More on that later. Okay, once again, I'm not saying that Bryce Young is a bust. I would never say that after seeing a guy for 9 games, especially a quality guy like that. I'm not saying he's a bust. What I am saying is I'm not seeing nearly enough from him. I get that he's kind of a flat line in terms of personality. I get that he's getting pummeled. But I need to see some energy. A little more energy. A little more juice. None of that energy is coming off of him right now. Suddenly, he does look small. He looks small. He looks slow. He holds onto the ball way too long. He doesn't look like he's processing quickly enough. He makes too many mistakes and not enough splash plays. You know, all those things that C.J. Stroud is doing the right way, the right things. So Young's got to be better, period. And that's not just me going off. He would be the first one to agree with me going off. You don't have to take any of that from me. He said it himself last night over and over and over and over again. I'm sure losing is frustrating, my dude. But you know what else is frustrating? Watching you guys. I mean, I'm sure it sucks to get your asses kicked every single week. But at least you're not on the other side having to watch you guys get your asses kicked every single week. Believe me, I'm one of those people who has to see it. It's torture, yo. Don't act like you're the only ones who are frustrated. So Bryce has got to be better, but he's not the only one. As an example, the hell kind of decision was that at the end of the game to attempt a 59-yard field goal at night in November at Soldier Field? Eddie Pinheiro literally stood there shrugging after he was at least 5 yards short. Not even close. He's looking over at Frank Reich like, dude, what did you think was going to happen? What did you really think was going to happen? Considering I've never made a field goal at this distance in my entire career. And only one other player has ever made a 59-yard field goal in this stadium, in the history of this stadium. Which is also why I'm kind of lost trying to follow Frank Reich's explanation for that decision after the game. And dude, none of that makes any sense at all. I mean, yeah, exactly. You could have gone and won the game.
It doesn't make any sense.
Rather than kick a totally doomed field goal from the start that would have only maybe possibly brought on in overtime that no single human being on the planet was interested in. And by the way, you have one win. What are you doing playing for a tie? You have one win. Nobody was interested in that game or extra free football. Nobody wanted any more of that than we had to endure already. And by the way, I would say that includes both players or players on both teams. You could have let your number one pick try to keep a potentially game-winning drive alive, right? Would that have been good for the confidence of that number one pick? Would that have been good for the team? Instead, you opt for a totally doomed field goal because you say the numbers told you to. I mean, that makes no sense. Reich said his analytics guy told him that going for it on 4th and 10 is around 30%, but kicking a 60-yard field goal is higher than that. I mean, he actually just said that in the postgame. He actually said that his analytics guy told him that nailing the longest field goal in the history of Soldier Field in a November night game had a better than 30% chance of success. Dude, if your numbers guy told you that, you need new numbers guys. Hell, you don't even need a numbers guy. You have a kicker. All you had to do was ask your kicker, hey, yo, Ed, do you think you can make this kick? There's no way Eddie would have said, I have a better chance of making this kick than we do of moving the chains. I mean, come on with that. And you can't make that decision on your own? Dude, when did you become a Major League Baseball manager? What, it's the front office calling the shots now? Do they make the decision for you? Yeah, I understand analytics, but come on, man. You're right there on the field. In the end, I'm actually glad, though, that that's how that played out, because it did avoid potentially the most excruciating overtime in NFL history. I would much rather lose a bet than watch one more second of that game. I don't know how the Panthers can possibly come out of that game looking any worse than they did. I'm not sure how that game itself could possibly come out looking any worse than it did. Man, you know it's bad. You know it's bad when the most eyebrow-raising thing that happened at Soldier Field last night happened before the game. That's when Jason Kelce joined Fitzmagic and Witt for a snapping demonstration. And that's when Fitz decided to get extra loose with it, probably to see if anybody actually was still awake. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell to be the first to know when we do upload a new video.